Welcome to MovieBabble Presents Babble with Brennan. It's been a while, but we are back to kind of kick off the 2021 movie season. Took a little bit of a COVID hiatus here, but it's kind of a worthy time to come on. We're going to discuss some of our most anticipated films of 2021. I'm your host, Brennan. I'm joined by Nick. How's it going today?
What's going on, man? I can't wait to talk about movies that may or may not come out. We'll see again. I feel like we have a few of the same movies we talked about last year on this very pod, but I'm excited. New year, new stuff to talk about.
Yeah, it feels like kind of just yesterday, but it also feels like an eternity ago that we did this. I think it was pretty much 12 months ago last week.
I have no idea what time is at this point anymore. I don't know. We could have done that last week.
Yeah, but it's funny. I mean, there are some movies here that I definitely had on my list last year, and I think probably same with you, maybe one or two. But yeah, it's definitely weird. I think 2021 will be a little bit more of a stable year. I think studios are adjusting, and they know what they're going to do this year, so we might not see as many shifts, but who knows?
Yeah, I feel like at this point we're getting to this cutoff point for a lot of studios where they've been pushing stuff back for so long that they probably just need to release these things at some point, you know? Like they have a lot of money riding on these. They need to pay staff. They don't want to lay people off or things like that and keep the lights on. So, I mean, I know Netflix has been nuts in this time and they bought a bunch of different movies from studios, but at some point we're just going to get to this where like Paramount needs to release stuff and all these other studios that were struggling a little bit. So, I think this will be a little more stable. I mean, we saw No Time to Die already get pushed back again from its April release date, and there's definitely going to be some of those that push back to the fall. So the fall might be really busy, but I think we'll have a few more bigger-ish movies this year.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, you look at last year. Let's say pandemic on. We really only had Tenet, and then obviously Wonder Woman and not Coco, Soul, both came out on Christmas Day, but they were kind of a hybrid release. Well, Soul was essentially all Disney Plus. I know it hit theaters in a few other countries overseas, but that's pretty much all we saw in terms of blockbusters since March. So I do think you're right. 2021, we'll see some of these bigger movies, and obviously with HBO Max, with their kind of plan of doing the hybrid release of like a month on HBO/theaters, and then after that just theaters for a little while. I think we'll definitely see a little bit more stability in terms of big budget films.
Yeah, I think we're definitely going to get the first wave of COVID movies in a sense that like these bigger budgeted COVID movies. Like we had a few last year with like Host, which was really good on Shudder. Well, we had that Songbird movie, the Michael Bay produced one that looked terrible, but I didn't see that one. But I mean, as we're recording this, we have Locked Down, which dropped on HBO Max, which was the heist movie, the heist rom-com, I think it is, with Anne Hathaway and Chiwetel Ejiofor. So we had that come out. I assume there's been a bunch of other things that have been like produced in secret that we'll see too. So we'll see.
And I mean, even I'm not sure if this was made in during COVID or anything, but Malcolm and Marie kind of seems like a quarantine movie.
I think that was made in quarantine. I think.
Yeah, because I mean, yeah,
it was like one of the big. I think that was like one of the big purchases because as soon as I think Sam Levinson, like who directs that movie, they announced it, and then Netflix immediately threw like a bunch of money at them for it. So yeah, I don't know if that one's like actually COVID related or if it's just they just shot it during COVID and it's its own thing, but. Yeah, there's going to be a ton of those. I don't know if I'm looking forward to those or not because just looking at the trailer for Lockdown and seeing Anne Hathaway put a mask on makes my skin crawl a little bit. So
we don't need it. I don't think we need it.
Yeah, it's weird. I think it's like the literal too soon, you know, of seeing like these movies that are. I mean, it's kind of cool because we're seeing them in real time, you know. Like all these movies come out and we're still in it. I mean, I guess that's concerning in many other different ways, but. I don't know. I don't know if I need it yet.
Yeah, it's odd. Another thing we had to kind of think about when doing this list is there are movies that are 2021 but are kind of like 2020 asterisks. You know, like it's kind of weird. Like there's one on my list, especially up there on my list actually. I don't know about you, but movies that are gonna compete for awards in the 2021 batch but are coming out. Sorry, in the 2020 batch but are coming out here in 2021. just because of that extended awards period for a lot of different circuits. So it's definitely an interesting year.
Yeah, it's so weird because we'll talk about our best movies of the year at some point, and all these movies will maybe some of them have already won Oscars or were nominated for stuff like that. Yeah, I mean, the Oscars, who knows what's going to happen with that this year? That's a whole other podcast in of itself. But yeah, it's cool. I think we are, like you said, it's going to be a little more, I think, stable this year. I think people have a better sense of how to release things, and I feel like a lot of the trial runs we had for stuff already happened with seeing what works with your hybrid releases or just in theaters or just dumping it on streaming. So I'm excited. I think there's a lot of really cool stuff here. And even last year, I released my top 10 on the site, so go check that out if you want. But I really loved my top 10. I thought it was better than my 2019 top 10, honestly. So I'm sure there's a bunch of great stuff. And that's the thing with all these indie movies too, where we don't know that these things are getting made until there's like a trailer coming out for them. So I guess like a lot of our top 10 lists kind of skew towards more like blockbustery or like prestige dramas and stuff like that. So
yeah, that's generally what seems to happen, but we'll go through it now. So we got our honorable mentions kind of for our top 10, things that we are interested in but didn't really land on that top 10. Then we're going to go 10 to 1 back and forth all the way to our most anticipated. How about you start with your with some of your honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list?
Yeah, so I have one on here. It's called Slacks, Slaxx, and it's a movie about a killer pair of jeans, which just sounds amazing to me. That's coming out on Shudder at some point this year. I don't think there's a release date on it, but I will be watching it because it's probably going to be super gory coming from Shudder and ridiculous. So I'm here for it. Another one is The Trial of Macbeth, which is directed by just Joel Coen, only one of the Coen brothers this time around, but it has Denzel as Macbeth and Frances McDormand as Lady Macbeth. I'm sure that movie's going to be amazing. It's going to be at least really, really interesting. So that's another one. The Souvenir Part Two, which I think I talked about last year. But I loved the first Souvenir, and so this is the follow up to that. And it was supposed to have Robert Pattinson in it, but he declined. He had scheduling conflicts with this little movie called The Batman, which comes out in 2022. So he had to drop out. And we have Taylor Swift's hubby instead, Joe Alwyn, taking his place in that movie, which I'm really looking forward to. Top Gun Maverick. I'm really looking forward to Tom Cruise in planes. Candyman looks terrific. There's a musical with Adam Driver and Marion Cotillard called Annette, and it's directed by Leos Carax, who did Holy Motors, so I'm sure that movie will be really, really weird. You have Old, the M. Night Shyamalan movie. It might be terrible, like some of his movies, but it'll be really interesting to talk about. I think all of his movies are fascinating in their own ways. I guess two more I have on here is The Card Counter, which is the new Paul Schrader movie. That last movie, this first movie since First Reformed. I think Oscar Isaac is in there, and I think it's a gambling movie, so I'm sure it'll be all levels of fucked up because it's a Paul Schrader movie. And then the last one I have on here is Encanto, which is a Pixar musical with I think vocals from Lin-Manuel Miranda, or at least he wrote all the music for it. So I'm sure that'll be lovely.
Yeah. No, that's a great list, and especially the which one piques my interest is Annette. That really piques my interest.
I have no idea what that movie's going to be, but it's probably going to be very, very weird. Especially from
I heard a rumor, or I may have read this wrong because it's been many months since I've seen this article, but I heard like the entire thing was singing.
Sure, why not? I'm here for it.
I don't know if that's true. Double check that, somebody, but I remember, I really think I remember reading that somewhere, that it was just going to be straight song, which would be interesting. But I'm interested in that movie.
That one, yeah. It's if you haven't seen Holy Motors, that is a very particular kind of strange, and it's really wonderful. So I'm sure this will be nothing less. And you have Adam Driver again, so why not?
Yeah, and especially Macbeth movie that you spoke about, that looks very good as well.
Yeah, I'm interested to see or to find out why Ethan Coen isn't involved in this one, since it's just Joel. But one of the Coens is involved, and the guy who's doing the cinematography for it did Inside Llewyn Davis, which is my favorite movie. So it'll look great. It'll probably be really depressing and good, and you have Denzel and Frances McDormand just kind of dueling it out. So
It's a powerhouse there, and
that's kind of like stupid good, you know.
it just got. I don't know if it got announced, but I know they released shots from the movie. It's gonna be black and white, so that's pretty cool.
Oh, cool. I'm here for it.
Mm.
Maybe I should have put it on my list.
But yeah, it looks good. So my list a little bit more trending towards some of those big movies, as we spoke about before we jumped on. So I threw Black Widow on here. You know what? The more I have to wait for this movie, I think the less interested I am in it. However, I think I spoke about this on a pod recently. I think it was nice to have a year off from Marvel movies. I think we kind of needed that. Um, I also put on the other one. They got Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings. Looks good. Jungle Cruise, just because, you know what? I think Disney original films are kind of not great lately, and I hope this is one that kind of in a Pirates of the Caribbean sense sparks their kind of original live action productions. I don't have the highest of hopes for it, but I think with Emily Blunt, Dwayne Johnson, I know Jesse Plemons is in there. Um, sure, I'll give it a shot. I also got the Suicide Squad on here. Great cast. I mean, James Gunn. I hope he gets enough freedom here to really have a lot of fun with this thing. I had to throw on Space Jam: A New Legacy just because. um, the first one is like, it's bad. It's a bad movie, but it is fun to watch. It's cringy. It's funny. It's classic. I feel like this is going to be a better made movie. Isn't Ryan Coogler? Isn't he attached to this?
Is he like a producer of it?
I think I know he's attached to it in some way, but if I'm not mistaken, he wrote it.
That's incredible. Going from Black Panther and Creed and Fruitvale Station to writing Space Jam 2.
Yeah, he's one of the writers. He's a producer and writer. You got Malcolm D. Lee directing this. Like,
what is happening?
It's weird. I mean, it's gonna have quite the budget kind of behind it there. And then I also threw on A Quiet Place 2. I liked the first one. When I heard there was going to be a sequel, I kind of puked in my mouth. I'm like, leave it as one. But I'll throw it on there just because I did enjoy the first one. I got West Side Story here. I'm kind of craving a musical, and I love Steven Spielberg. I think he always is good. I mean, the last 10 to 15 years, he hasn't been quite as good as he used to be, but he is Steven Spielberg, and I think this is a movie he's wanted to do for decades, I'm pretty sure. So I think finally seeing this come to the big screen or small screen, however we watch it by the time December rolls around, I think will be nice. And then the last one I got is another musical, actually, Lin-Manuel Miranda's In the Heights. I know you're also looking forward to this one as well.
This movie looks delightful. And that trailer dropped, and I had no idea this was coming. I didn't realize that he actually made this on Broadway before Hamilton. So I think that was kind of like his first big thing, or maybe I'm wrong. Someone out there will correct me, I'm sure. But it looks really, really good. I think the music looks lovely in it. I just think I was really looking forward to it this past summer. But I guess, do we have a release date on that? Do we know when it's coming out?
It's looking like June. Another interesting thing is with this movie and Jungle Cruise, they pretty much got delayed like straight up a year. Like they kind of just said, okay, we're going to move you back 365 days. And I think that was probably a good move. And I think I wish more things followed that, but just the way things shook out, they just kind of moved it back directly a year. So Jungle Cruise is also July 30, 2021, whereas last year it was like late July 2020.
Yeah, I feel like they were part of that group that really moved quick on that. Like Fast 9 moved immediately, and then I'll probably have to move again because that's in April. That will not be showing up on my list, but I guess I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, there's a bunch that just like moved immediately. So who knows?
The other one I just wanted to throw on here because I'm doing a last minute substitution to my top 10. So I'm moving this movie off my 10 and into my honorable mentions is Urea and the Last Dragon. That's coming out. It's kind of like the first movie of 2021 that's not competing in the 2020 Oscars because it's coming out like March 4th or something with a Disney Plus / theater hybrid. Animated Disney original. Looks good. Dragon's pretty cool. I'm just happy to see Kelly Marie Tran in a movie, and Awkwafina's in this as well, so we continue to see her star kind of rise up a little bit.
This movie looks great. I'm really looking forward to it. And there's like there's like an Indiana Jones vibe to it. If you watch the trailer where she's, I guess, capturing whatever this, there's like a dragon gem. That's like the big MacGuffin in this movie. It looks really cool. I think this could be like a really fun, Disney, animated original. I feel like since I can't remember the last good one. I guess Moana was like the last big one, or I guess Frozen 2. Frozen 2 is in there. But it looks really cool. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, definitely. So I'll throw it back to you just to kind of get things started with your top 10.
Sure. So my number 10 is a cheat because I'm always indecisive and I can't choose things. So my top 10 list actually has 12 movies in it. We'll get to the other grouping of two I have in a little bit, but my 10 is a grouping of two movies because they kind of follow the same, I guess, theme. But the first one is Wendell and Wild, and the second one is Abrupt Show, and they are both animated horror movies with Jordan Peele as a lead voice in them, which I thought was really cool. He got really into puppets, I guess, during the lockdown. But so Wendell and Wild, there's really not much about this movie. It's coming out on Netflix at some point this year. But it's a stop motion movie directed by Henry Selick. It's his first movie since Coraline back in 2009. So cool to see him back. And it's Jordan Peele and Keegan-Michael Key are the two lead voices in it. And they both played a hand in writing the movie as well. But the logline is really hilarious to me. It's two demon brothers face off against a nun and a pair of goth teens, which just sounds really funny and goofy. So I'm sure there'd be a lot of fun horror in there, as we know Jordan Peele loves now. And frankly, we should have known the entire time if you watch some of the shorts in Key and Peele. There's just some of those are just like, it makes so much sense where his career is now. But that one looks terrific. And then Abrupt Show is a puppet horror movie, which it's going to be all in live settings. There's no CGI or anything, and it's going to be hand puppets in live settings just around cities and whatnot. And it's a horror movie, or I guess a thriller. So the logline of this one is a puppet wakes up and finds that he has an explosive device implanted in his neck. He has to figure out who did it while committing crimes. That sounds amazing to me. It sounds really goofy. Jordan Peele is the main voice in that one as well, along with Robert Englund, which is really cool, and Sid Haig, who died back in 2019. Know him as from the Devil Rejects movies. That just sounds really cool to me and really bizarre. And I don't know when this movie's coming out this year, but it'll come out at some point on some service somewhere. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, Jordan Peele, really loving his goofy animated horror movies this year.
Yeah, that's the thing with some of these movies too. Like we don't quite know. We don't quite know their exact release dates. I know some of these movies are jumping around a lot, and some of these movies also don't have dates. So I'll jump into my number 10 here, and that does sound great. I think Jordan Peele, obviously, he's fantastic, and those both sound very interesting. So my number 10 is another movie that was on my top 10 last year, Edgar Wright's Last Night in Soho, the psychological kind of horror film. I think there's a little bit of time travel mixed in here or something like that, but I was hyped for this last year, and then I got moved. It kind of fell off my radar that I got moved. I didn't really know. It was supposed to come out in September of 2020, and then got moved now to April of 2021. I am looking forward to this for sure, and a lot of the reason is because Edgar Wright's great. I think he makes movies that are fun, they're good, they're enjoyable, but Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomasin McKenzie are just people I've really fallen in love with over the last few years. I think they've really jumped to the forefront in terms of just what I like in movies, so that they're an Edgar Wright movie, I think that's great.
Yeah, I kind of run a little hot and cold on Edgar Wright. I love some of his movies. I guess it'll pain people to know that I really do not love Scott Pilgrim vs. the World. I actually kind of loathe that movie a little bit, but this movie sounds pretty cool. Yeah, Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomasin McKenzie, why not? Yeah, I think it's like they travel back to like 1960s London or something like that, and during like in like the fashion world, and it's something about like horror mixing with time travel. I got no idea what's going to happen in this movie, but it sounds neat. I'm here for it.
Yeah, and there are two Bond girls, actually. We can call them that were in 1960s films. Rig and Margaret Nolan Goldfinger, A Hard Day's Night. They passed away in 2019, or 2020 actually. They passed away a few months ago, and this is their final film. So that's just something interesting to note from my number 10.
Yeah, I'm always fascinated by Edgar Wright. Even though if I don't like some of his movies, I think he's one of the few guys that like takes genre movies and makes these wholly original things that become kind of eventized. You know, I feel like Baby Driver was its own thing, and that became like $100 million grosser, and it became a big deal when that came out a few years ago. So I root for him, even though I don't like some of his things. I think just the idea of this movie sounds really bonkers and cool. So why not? Let him do his thing. But I guess I'll move on to my number 9, which is Luca, the one of the Pixar movies that comes out this year. I think this is due out in March, or no, it's June 18th. I was off there, but yeah, it's a Pixar movie and it's an original idea. So the log line is that focus on the title character Luca, who lives on the Italian Riviera, and he strikes up a friendship with another boy who is secretly a sea monster disguised as a human. Which sounds hilarious, and I'm sure every time Pixar comes out with an original idea, it'll just destroy you with all the emotion that's in it. So I'm sure this is going to be terrific, and I'm going to cry a lot, and it'll be another just out of the park hit from Pixar.
Yeah, this sounds like a good movie. I mean, it's one of those Pixar movies we don't really know too much about it, right? But we know it's going to be great. We know it's going to be something good. And that was kind of what I felt with Soul too. Say we're a year up from Soul's release, didn't really know too much about it. It's a Pete Docter Pixar movie. It's going to be great.
Yeah, it's kind of how I felt about Coco too, where I was like, it's interesting. I don't know anything about this except that it's about the Day of the Dead, and then you watch it and you see the end of that movie, you're like, oh no, this is one of the most sad things I've ever watched in my life. So, yeah, something tells me that there's going to be something a little special about this, because they are being kind of coy about it. We haven't really seen anything about it. We've seen like a trailer for Raya and the Last Dragon, and Disney announced all of this information about the future of Disney Plus and all this stuff, but they didn't say much about Luca. So my guess is, just based on the track record of Pixar, that this will be pretty special.
Yeah, no, for sure. And honestly, with a lot of Pixar stuff, if I kind of hear about it and I see that it's not a sequel, prequel, or remake of something, I get that kind of excitement right away.
Yeah, that's how I am, because I feel like every time they do that, it's one of those Pixar movies where it's a kids movie, but it's really an adult movie disguised as a kids movie, because Soul is just one of the most existential movies you'll watch. And I still can't get over how Disney gave them $150 million to make this crazy existentialist movie. But and same with like Inside Out and Coco as well. So yeah, it's every time they do something new. I don't really care about that Buzz Lightyear movie, the real Buzz Lightyear movie that's coming out in a few years with Chris Evans, but stuff like this really excites me from them.
100%. So my number 9 here is Nightmare Alley. This is another one that I think was supposed to come out in 2020 that got pushed back, and even then it's pushed all the way back to December of 2021, which that's kind of teetering on the line here. We'll see if it actually does come out. Guillermo del Toro directing, but we'll fire off this cast: Bradley Cooper, Cate Blanchett, Willem Dafoe, Toni Collette, Richard Jenkins, Ron Perlman, Rooney Mara. I mean, this is just an exciting cast, especially for a psychological horror thriller film headed by Guillermo del Toro. I mean, I think this is something that I think we can all be excited for as movie fans.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the original. It's based off of the 1947 film, but you just look at that cast, and it's absurd. Like, it's crazy. And Guillermo del Toro, it's first movie since Shape of Water, right? So
yeah,
kind of have to give him the benefit of the doubt. This is kind of the movie where you always see after people win Oscars, where it's like, this is the next thing they do is kind of where they're putting all their chips in, because they have so much more freedom to do what they want after winning an Oscar. So we'll see. I mean, amazing cast. I'm sure there's going to be something great about this, but I don't know. I typically run a little hot and cold on his movies, but this definitely just sounds very exciting when you read the log line and the cast involved.
Yeah, and I mean, Leo was actually Leonardo DiCaprio was supposed to be in Bradley Cooper's spot. I remember that when they first announced this movie, it was going to be Leo, but then Bradley Cooper, a few months later, replaced him, which is okay. But I think it's kind of neat, and it kind of plays into what we were talking about before we jumped on. It could be the year of Bradley Cooper, most certainly.
Yeah, there's another movie that is much higher on my list that I can't wait to talk about in a bit that he's in. But yeah, and he has his Leonard Bernstein movie too, which I guess is coming out this year. I don't really know, but I feel like that one's been in talks for a while, ever since A Star Is Born came out. But yeah, I guess I'll jump into my next one, which is Dune, which we've all been waiting for I feel like forever. And it was the big will they, won't they, and releasing it at the end of this year. And obviously we have to wait another year because I think it's coming out next fall, October 1st, I think. It's Dune. It looks really cool. The trailer looks great. Denis Villeneuve hasn't really done wrong in my mind. Amazing cast. I feel like we've talked this movie to death already because we've been hyping it up in preparation for it to come out. And then now we just kind of have to recycle a lot of the same conversations, you know? So it just looks really cool. I'm looking forward to it hopefully coming out next year.
Yeah, I would have had this on my list as well, 100%, just because great director, great cast. Everything he does is pretty much gold lately. But I wasn't too hot on the trailer personally. I think it was probably music choice. But I mean, trailers are trailers. I don't think they kind of represent a film all too well. But I'm just so excited for this movie, and I'm happy. I mean, they're fighting for this to really just get a theater release. Obviously, HBO Max has that deal that they have this year, right? With the hybrid, as we've spoken about many times. They've said that they don't want that. They want to reject that. And is Lionsgate doing this? I forget.
I think it's Legendary Pictures, right?
Oh, Legendary, right? That's what it was.
Yeah, I think they're the producers behind this. That they were like, no, you can't do that. You can't throw this on HBO Max.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the thing. It'll be weird to see what happens, but I'd love to see this in an IMAX screen.
Yeah, I mean, you watch the trailer, and yeah, maybe the song choice. Now that I'm remembering it correctly, probably not the best from that trailer. But like you look at some of the visuals, like they're just stupid good. And you know when they show like the worm at the end, and it's this amazing like wide shot, and I'm sure that'll be amazing in IMAX. And yeah, I just need to see that in theaters on the biggest screen possible. So come on, vaccine, let's get here. Come on.
I mean, yeah, I mean it's I think timeline wise, I think October, as you said, I think that's probably pretty good. I think we'll see. Obviously, I think we'll see by then a lot of things open. Here, at least, vaccine rollout's supposed to conclude in September. So I'm hoping I can definitely see this in an IMAX theater.
Yeah, we'll see with the US because it seems like you Canadians have it together a lot more than we do. But yeah, apparently it seems like June-ish is when just general public people, healthier, younger people are scheduled to get the vaccine or at least be eligible for it. So that wouldn't make enough sense by the time October comes around. You figure a couple of months of people getting their vaccines that maybe this is available to go to theaters. But I just really want to go back to theaters. Still, the last movie I saw in theaters was Bloodshot, and that's just the most miserable part of all this for me. So I just want to go back to theaters and see big, crazy movies like this one.
100%. Bloodshot. I watched that last week. Ooh, it's tough. I thought about you when I watched it, though.
Thank you. Thoughts and prayers.
so number 8 for me is The Eternals, and it's not even just this cast of Angelina Jolie, Richard Madden, Kumail Nanjiani. I mean, Brian Tyree Henry, Salma Hayek. It's Kit Harington. It's interesting. Barry Keoghan, right? You have a very interesting and large cast here. But it's really Chloe Zhao. I mean, she's coming off Nomadland, which might go all the way this year. It's going to be big. A beautiful film as well. Such a human film. Such a small film. Grand, I mean, in scope. I mean, the cinematography is great in Nomadland. But it's such a personal film. For her to go from that to like a $200 million blockbuster, a Marvel blockbuster, is pretty crazy. And I mean, Marvel, they have this trend of doing this. They pick up an indie director and they throw them 150 to 200 million. They say, make a big movie. And I think a lot of the times we see it happen, it's cool. But I don't think we see them do it with an indie director that's this good. I don't think we've seen this before. It will be very interesting to see how this plays out.
Yeah, I think you're right there. It's so bizarre to think about her last two movies, The Rider and also Nomadland, which are really small, almost like docudramas, where it's a lot of almost like documentary style filmmaking and kind of just people talking about their livelihoods and just kind of far off places. And then you go to a fucking Eternals. It's amazing to me. And then I guess we finally get to see the movie that made Kumail Nanjiani like really jacked. So I feel like we've been waiting for that for years. So we finally get to see that pay off.
Yeah, and I mean, I didn't throw too much on here in terms of superhero movies because I am very worn out. I think Endgame was a very nice place to just kind of stop it. That's why I threw them all to my honorable mentions. But this is one that I just can't overlook, just because of her at the helm, and because of, I mean, the cast in these movies are always good, but it's definitely a shakeup from the normal Marvel batch of actors and actresses. So that's why I'm definitely looking forward to this one. That's why it made number 8 on my list.
Yeah, and I feel like too, it's like similar to the Guardians for me, where I have no idea what the Eternals are, and I don't even try to pretend that I know what that is. So I feel like it's the same as the Guardians of the Galaxy, where I had no idea what was going to happen in those movies or what it was going to be. I kind of feel the same way about this, where I'm just going to sit down and watch this and learn about all these characters for the first time. So it could be really interesting and really cool surprise for this year.
Mm-hmm. Most certainly.
Yeah, but I guess we'll go to my 7, which is The Many Saints of Newark, which is the Sopranos prequel movie that was supposed to come out, I think, in the fall in September. I think it actually just pushed exactly a year, so it's coming out September 24th right now. I'm actually making my way through The Sopranos for the first time right now. Really, and in some way, I'm kind of happy that they pushed this movie back, so I have more time to watch it because it's taking me forever with all the other movies I'm watching. But I love The Sopranos; it's really good. I'm really interested to see what they do with a prequel movie. And you have Michael Gandolfini, James's son, who's playing a young Tony Soprano. The cast itself, the rest of the cast is amazing. Vera Farmiga, John Bernthal, Billy Magnuson, Alessandro Nivola, Ray Liotta, Leslie Odom Jr., John Magaro from First Cow. We get Corey Stahl and then Joey Diaz as well. Yeah, I think this just sounds great. I don't think we really know anything about the actual content of this movie, but a Sopranos sequel, I'm here for it. The only thing I'm a little worried about is, so it's written by David Chase, who is the creator of Sopranos, which is great that they're bringing him back, and also Lawrence Connor, who wrote a couple episodes and then also did Boardwalk Empire. I'm a little worried about the director, Alan Taylor, who did direct a lot of Sopranos shows, so maybe there's like some good symbiosis or kind of thing going on there, but he directed some memorable Game of Thrones episodes too. But other than that, he did Thor: The Dark World, which people normally consider as the worst Marvel movie. And then he also directed Terminator Genesis, which that's a whole nother entire conversation, that one. But yeah, that's the only thing that concerns me. I mean, who knows? I think Genesis and The Dark World were kind of infamously two of the bigger like bad like production problems with those movies, where there's a lot of studio meddling. They didn't really know what they were doing with those movies until they started shooting. So who's to say he's to blame for that? But I don't know. That's the one thing that makes me a little worried. Other than that, this looks really cool.
Yeah, I mean, I think the one maybe silver lining here you can look at is he's not going to be dealing with $100 million CGI, big old CGI
yeah, that's
movie,
true.
right?
It's definitely more character focused and style. Yeah.
Which is probably a good sign. Like he's going back to what he did best with TV, probably. So I mean, I think that's probably one good thing. Funny enough, you mentioned it too. I'm on episode 3, season 1, so I've just got into that as well.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, where am I at right now? I think I just started season 4, so I'm basically halfway through at this point, and yeah, can't get enough. It's really good. Hot take for me: Sopranos, decent show.
Yeah, for sure. So my number 7 here is one that was also one I spoke about, I think, for my 2020 most anticipated, and that's Ridley Scott, his film The Last Duel. Ridley Scott's got to be like, he's 83 years of age. I can't believe he's still making movies. He's one of my favorite directors. He's also a director that does a lot of movies that aren't the best. And he also does a lot of movies that are great. But this is an interesting film, I think. And Adam Driver, Matt Damon, Ben Affleck. I mean, it looks good. Obviously, it's about a duel. You have a woman claiming she's been raped by her husband's best friend, and then there's a duel ultimately in the end. Might be a little bit I don't know, might be a little bit like male red-blooded heavy, but I am excited to see this, especially just seeing Matt Damon and Ben Affleck kind of reunite, and they wrote this film as well. And you also have a really good writer who I think is really going to balance them out here. I think the writer of I don't know if you can give me a save here. Do you know who I'm talking about? There's a female writer who joined.
Is it Nicole Hofstetter? Is she in it?
Yes, 100%. Yeah, she helped write this script as well.
Yeah, I think that's key, especially for a movie about rape and whatnot, to have a female voice, and it sounds like the rest of the cast and crew is very male oriented. So yeah. I think that's a good move by them. But he also has another movie Ridley Scott coming out this year, the Gucci movie. I think Lady Gaga's in that movie, which is like, damn, he's doing 2 big time movies like that at 83, and I'm over here recording podcasts. What am I doing with my life? Holy hell! But yeah, I think the only thing we've seen from this movie is like that funny out of context shot of all the their beards in these movies. Yeah. I think Ben Affleck is blonde in this movie, right? So who knows? Maybe that's hilarious.
Yeah, and yeah, for sure. Nicole Hofstetter there. She wrote "Can You Ever Forgive Me," which I think was a pretty good film a few years ago, and she's definitely been kind of around the block writing a lot of things. So I think it was very smart to bring her in and kind of help doctor this script here.
Yeah, no doubt. I think she is really, really good. And Can You Ever Forgive Me was one of my favorite movies the year it came out. I love that movie a lot. So why not? I feel like Ridley Scott is one of those directors where he shoots the script. His background is in art direction. So he's really obviously amazing at putting an image on screen, and there's so many indelible images from his movies, but he kind of just takes the script and goes with it. So if the script is good, odds are you're going to have a pretty good Ridley Scott movie. So I think this does have the makings of one of the better ones from him, hopefully.
Yeah, certainly. And even just that narrative of having Ben Affleck and Matt Damon kind of reunite after all these years. They've probably worked on stuff together that I'm not too sure about, but I mean, they came up together, right, so many years ago. So it's kind of cool to see them kind of reuniting on a script again.
Yeah, I think Adam Driver's in this movie too, right?
Yeah.
It's stacked cast. I think is Jodie Comer in it as well?
Yeah.
Speaking, but yeah, I'm here for it. I feel this is kind of like one of those veins of movies that we don't really see a lot of anymore, where it's the pretty high budget kind of knight in shining armor movie. It feels like from the gladiator era of like the 2000s and early 1990s. No, we don't really kind of see these kind of movies anymore. So I'm here for it.
Mm-hmm, certainly. But yeah, I'll send it back to you for your number 6, I believe.
My number 6. What a segue! I have another Ben Affleck movie here. It's Deep Water, the movie that made Ana de Armas and Ben Affleck date in real life. It's an erotic thriller from Adrian Lyne, who is probably the king of erotic thrillers. So he did 9.5 Weeks, Fatal Attraction, Indecent Proposal, and Unfaithful. And Unfaithful, weirdly enough, was his last movie. So that was 2002. So this is his first movie since then, which is kind of wild. But yeah, it stars Affleck and Ana de Armas, and they're a married couple. And the synopsis or the log line is: a married couple at odds with each other begin to play dangerous mind games with each other, eventually leading to murder. So I feel like we don't get any erotic thrillers anymore. I think they're really, really fun. Even if they're kind of trashy and bad sometimes, they're one of the better theatrical experiences. I think they're just kind of really enjoyable and thrilling to watch when done really well. So I'm looking forward to this movie. This was supposed to come out in November of 2020, and it's been pushed back to August 13th of 2021. So that's kind of hopefully right in the sweet spot of when we can see it in the theaters. But I kind of want to see the movie that made Ben Affleck and Anna de Armas date. It sounds like they had pretty decent chemistry. So why not? This sounds trashy and wonderful, and I can't wait to watch it.
Yeah, no, for sure. Um, it does sound good. I mean, Ben Affleck, it seems like he's having a little bit of a resurgence here in the last few years. So I think we'll ride this, and I'm pretty excited for it. My number six. This was my last minute sub in that I didn't that I completely forgot about, but it's Spider-Man 3, the third Tom Holland Spider-Man movie. It's got a December release date. Um, I know it got pushed back. I believe it was supposed to come out in the summer. It got pushed back to, I think, November, and then officially landed in December. So we'll see if that holds. I know it's already filming. I think it started filming in October. Um, so they'll probably have that done. But this is one I'm certainly excited for, and I think a lot of the reason of that is just because of what we've heard about it. It still doesn't have a title, but from what we've heard, we might be seeing a live action Spider-Verse in a sense. Um, you look at you've got Jamie Foxx returning. I think he's going to play Electro again. You got Alfred Molina returning. I think he's going to hop in as Doc Ock again. Benedict Cumberbatch is in this, so you have Doctor Strange doing some weird things. And then we've heard the rumors of Tobey Maguire on set. We've heard Andrew Garfield has taken up a role in this movie as well. It's going to be bonkers, I think, but I think if there's any movie that's going to bring big crowds back to the theaters, it's probably going to be this one.
This movie could be insane, and I'm here for it. It sounds wonderful. It's all of the things which we've dealt with a Spider-Man 3 packing itself too heavy in the past. So that kind of concerns me a little bit. But I don't know, Spider-Man mixed with Doctor Strange, a lot of multiverse stuff going on here. I would love if they actually threw in some animated stuff in there from Into the Spider-Verse as like a fun little nod to that. Yeah, I feel like this is one of those low floor, high ceiling movies where it could just be a mess, or it could be wacky and insane and one of the more memorable superhero movies. So,
Mm-hmm.
why not?
Yeah, I know you're not super high on Far From Home, but I know you liked Homecoming, I believe. And me personally, I like both of them. I found them to be enjoyable. I think a lot of it is just the Tom Holland charm. I think the character moments are great in those first two movies. Um, I like the second one a lot because it's Jake Gyllenhaal. I think he just has a lot of fun with his role, and same with Michael Keaton in the first one. I think he has a lot of fun with his role as well. But I'm hyped for this. I mean, if we do get to see Tobey Maguire, Andrew Garfield, Tom Holland, and maybe even, as you said, throw in some Spider-Verse stuff from the animated film in there, it'd be neat. And we'll probably see more of J.K. Simmons as well. We had the cameo in the last one. We'll probably see a little bit more of him. Uh, they're giving Jamie Foxx a second chance for Electro here. It's interesting.
Yeah, there's gonna be so much stuff in this movie. I totally forgot about J.K. Simmons as as Infowars dude, pretty much. But there's gonna be so much stuff in that movie. It wouldn't surprise me if that's like a 2.5 hour plus movie with all the stuff in there.
Yeah,
But
and I mean, it's interesting. And when I was a kid, I loved Alfred Molina's Doc Ock. I think a lot of kids probably did, but that's like the villain I gravitated towards. So I love that guy. So many action figures, but yeah, he was cool. So when I heard he was coming back, that's pretty interesting as well. He doesn't really do too much lately, but I'm excited for that. And John Watts getting to do a whole trilogy, I think, is really cool. I think he'll be the first person to complete a trilogy because the Captain America movies, it wasn't the brothers for the whole time. Obviously, James Gunn's Guardians 3 is going to come out much later. So, yeah, I mean, good for him to complete a MCU trilogy.
yeah, it's true. I am interested because I feel like with all the stuff in this movie, it might be one of those things where people are popping in for 2 seconds at a time, and there's a bunch of like winks and nods to other things that happen in the multiverse, as it were. So it could be more streamlined, and we're just kind of getting super excited about these little pop-ins that happen for a second. But we'll see. There's a lot of stuff going on. I don't know.
I think you're probably right in that respect. I think you're going to see a lot of Reddit theories that just fall flat. You're probably going to have a lot of Redditors make up theories about how this movie is going to be. Tobey Maguire is going to be like in half the movie, and it's going to be all this big convoluted stuff, when it's probably just going to be really some small cameos. But I think I'd like it smaller anyways. So you don't have to do a whole heck of a lot. You don't need Tobey Maguire to be like the lead in this movie. I think just do something small. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah, and the best stuff about the first two Spider-Man movies in the MCU for me were just kind of the high school stuff with Tom Holland and Zendaya just chatting, or Ned just kind of having fun. So this feels like a little bit of a pivot for John Watts in terms of what he's done directing the last two movies. So I think that could be. There's a lot of stuff. He's definitely juggling a lot of different plates here, but I think it's fascinating. I say go for it with a lot of these superhero movies. I don't like how a lot of them feel super safe, so why not just go for it? See what happens.
Yeah, do something crazy. I mean, but before we head on to your number 5, I wouldn't be surprised if Tobey Maguire got like a $10 million 30-second scene.
Why not? Get that paycheck. I'm always here for people getting the paycheck. You got to do it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I'll move on to my 5 now, which is another movie that came out. It was supposed to come out last year, but that is The Green Knight, the big A24 film bro movie that everyone, all of them are excited for. It just looks really cool. Directed by David Lowery, who did A Ghost Story. He's actually one of the more fascinating careers because he's going back and forth between like these Disney movies. Like he did Pete's Dragon a few years ago, and he's doing a Peter Pan movie, I think, for Disney in the next few years. But then he also did A Ghost Story, The Old Man and the Gun, and now The Green Knight, which just looks very, very A24 when you watch the trailer. But yeah, it's based off of the Arthurian poem. Amazing cast: Dev Patel, Alicia Vikander, Joel Edgerton, Sean Harrison, Barry Keoghan in there as well. This movie just looks really, really good, and like a fantasy horror, horrific fantasy. I don't know what you call the tone of this movie, but it just looks really, really cool. I'm really excited for it.
Yeah, no, that does sound good. And this is, if I'm not mistaken, one of the movies you spoke about last year. Am I right?
I think so. Who knows?
I'm going to go back.
Someone else fact check me.
Yeah, I'm going to go back after this is done and look at actually everything we did talk about. But it sounds very familiar. I think you brought up The Green Knight on last year's pod as well.
That trailer, man, it just looks really cool. I'm really looking forward to it. I love Dev Patel. I love when he's the star of movies. I still haven't seen the David Copperfield movie that he was in, but I just think he's really cool as a lead actor and stuff. So I just kind of want to see everything he's in.
Yeah, no, 100%. So moving on to my number 5 here. This is one that is probably going to be the only one out of mine that is kind of a crossover into 2020 awards and stuff like that. But it's Judas and the Black Messiah, coming out in February, actually. I think it's going to get a Sundance release and then theaters and HBO Max early February, because it's one of those. But I'd like to, and then for me, obviously, we don't have HBO Max, so it's going to just be kind of a on-demand type thing. But I'm looking forward to this. Why? Because I think you have two of the best people doing it right now in Daniel Kaluuya and Lakeith Stanfield. Lakeith has become one of my favorite actors. He's just awesome. And Daniel Kaluuya as well. I mean, he's talent. Like he's fantastic. And it's a movie about Fred Hampton, 1960s. And you have Lakeith Stanfield's character who's going to be trying to infiltrate into the Black Panthers and kind of help the FBI get to Fred Hampton. But really, this is a movie that I think the trailer, you watched one of the more recent trailers, but the trailer I saw was back in September. I think it was just a teaser. But it looks raw. Like it is like Daniel Kaluuya, he's into this role. He's completely into this role from the trailer, and it looks like it's going to be really good.
It sounds like he's about to go hoarse every time he's yelling in this movie. He's just doing so much yelling and in front of all these crazy followers. Or not crazy, but just like they're very excited about their cause and whatnot. This movie looks really, really cool. Both trailers look amazing. I think Daniel Kaluuya is probably a frontrunner for Best Actor nomination there. It's weird because I don't think anyone's seen this movie yet, but people are penciling him in as like probably the winner there. And he looks amazing in it. He just blows you back in that trailer. Yeah. Lakeith Stanfield too. I'm totally with you. I love Lakeith so much. Then you have Jesse Plemons, who plays the FBI agent. People are starting to compare him to Philip Seymour Hoffman as one of the better character actors of our generation. I can see it. I think he's amazing. I'm really looking forward to his role in this too. But yeah, this movie just looks fiery, there's angry, and just really thrilling.
There's some good parallels too between Philip Seymour Hoffman and Jesse Plemons in terms of just how they look.
They look exactly alike, and I think it's funny too because I think this came up a lot during I'm thinking of ending things when because Philip Seymour Hoffman and Charlie Kaufman worked together quite a bit, and you can sense where he probably wanted to give that role to Philip Seymour Hoffman at one point before he died, unfortunately. So I think he's kind of, if anyone was going to pick up that torch, the Philip Seymour Hoffman torch, I would love it to be Jesse Plemons because I think he's such a terrific actor.
Oh yeah, he's great. But yeah, this movie, just kind of continuing on, it does look great, and I think we need a little bit more clarity on the categories here because I've seen on, I think, Gold Derby, Daniel Kaluuya for this movie is in both categories right now. So I think there's a little bit of unawareness as to where he's going to end up. But I've seen him on both, as you said, Best Actor, and he's on Best Supporting Actor. So I think it'll be neat to see where they end up slotting him or Lakeith. It might be one of those situations where they both have equal time, but they might, flip it around. But I'm 100% down for this. I'm really, really excited for it.
Yeah, it looks great. But I guess I'll move on to my number 4, which is Mission Impossible 7. And for the rest of these movies, I have a ton of copious notes. I came very prepared for this podcast, trying to lay down some really great thoughts on my end. But for Mission Impossible 7, I just have, I'm ready. I'm really ready for this movie. I can't wait. It's Mission Impossible 7. What do you want? Fallout might have been the best one of these Mission Impossible movies to date. Tom Cruise yelling at his crew to follow COVID protocols. Sounds like they're very serious about getting this movie done and getting it really good. So we got Chris McQuarrie back writing and directing it. I'm sure Tom's going to do some stupid, crazy stunt that we've never seen before because I think his big thing about movies is I want people to see something they've never seen before. So he's just going to keep putting himself into more and more danger, which will culminate in that Doug Liman space movie that he's making in a few years. But yeah, it's Mission Impossible 7. What more do you want?
Yeah, 100%. And you got to bring up, you got to discuss that one fiasco on set there.
Yeah, him yelling at his crew is one of the best things I've ever heard in my life. I love it so much. The YouTube clips of it are unbelievable. It's honestly Oscar worthy. Him yelling at his crew. It's so good. And he's serious about making his movie. He's a big producer on this, and I'm sure a lot of other crews are looking at Mission Impossible 7 as what he calls the gold standard in his rant for these big time movies getting done during COVID. So it's hilarious. It's just another reason why Tom Cruise isn't a human. He's an alien that came down from another planet. So it's the best. I will be thinking of that the entire time when he's doing these crazy stunts. Like he had to yell at some intern afterwards because their nose was showing over. They weren't covering their nose with their mask or something like that. It's amazing. There's so much content out of it.
If you're really kind of someone who's very conscious about COVID, I mean, you got to give him props for that. He really laid it on them.
Why not? I mean, hey, I get it. No one likes to be yelled at, but these are pretty serious times, and I figure there is a lot of truth in what he was saying. Kind of that a lot of these bigger movies are kind of they're at their wits' end about if we can get made or not at all. So I certainly give him credit. Obviously, you probably want to be a little nicer. I think that goes without saying in all of this. No one really loves to be yelled at like that, and it was a little obnoxious. But Tom Cruise, like I said, probably not a human, so maybe he gets a pass for not showing the best kind of emotion.
Yeah, no, for sure. I'm excited for that too, just because I love Fallout. It was probably one of my favorite movies of 2018. It's like top 3 maybe. Really fantastic. So I think they just keep getting better personally, these Mission Impossible movies. So we'll see how 7 is. But my number 4 is Cruella. Why? Because Emma Stone's my favorite person in Hollywood. Love Emma Stone. Like for she's the best. So her kind of leading this character, I'm sold right away just because it's her and it's a movie about an iconic character. I mean, I think it's interesting, and you got Craig Gillespie directing this, who did I, Tonya, and I think that adds to the intrigue there. One weird thing is, I mean, you got about 6 people writing this script, which happens a lot for big budget movies, and sometimes it doesn't always turn out great. But I think Craig Gillespie's a good enough director; he can handle this. And you got Emma Thompson kind of playing second lead there to Emma Stone, but I love Emma Stone, so I'm just like I'm all in for this. And this is one of those Disney remakes that I'll give a pass just because they got a very interesting director, they got my favorite actress, and I'll just let it happen.
Yeah, a really good supporting cast besides Emma Thompson too. Yeah, Paul Walter Hauser in that movie. I think Mark Strong and Dev Patel, another appearance by Dev Patel on that as well. So, I think this is. Have you seen the picture for this movie that they released, where it's Emma Stone in the half black, half white hair? They did a little something different with the Cruella hair this time around.
Yeah,
with
it's
her dogs. So, sure, why not? I think one of Emma Stone's most underrated talents is being zany. I think she's so funny when she gets to do that, and I feel like she hasn't gotten to do that in quite a long time. So, sure, why not? Have Emma Stone go nuts for an hour and a half. That sounds great.
Certainly, I'm pretty hyped for it. But that's set to come out in May. Originally, it was going to be May last year. Then it got moved to December, and now it's going to be May of 2021. So I'm looking forward to that one there. We'll throw it back to you for your number 3. We're getting to the big 3 now.
Yeah, so this was my other cheat that I mentioned before. So I have 2 movies here, both Nick Cage movies. So this is the theme for this time around. They're both Nick Cage movies, and they have amazing titles. So the first one is called Prisoners of the Ghostland, which just sounds like the best thing ever. I really want to see that movie now. But I'm scheduled to see this movie at Sundance in a few weeks, which I'm really excited about. And I'm not sure when it's coming out after that, but I hope everyone gets a chance to see it this year. But so yeah, Prisoners of the Ghostland, Nick Cage in a mashup of Western, samurai, post-apocalyptic thriller, a little bit of spoof, a little bit of horror. It's apparently extremely bloody, and Nick Cage, in terms of all of his performances where he's insane, it's said to be one of his more insane ones. So you put all those in a blender together, and it sounds like the best movie ever made. And so the plot of it is he just kind of goes across this post-apocalyptic hellscape trying to rescue this character called the Governor, his granddaughter. So I'm sure he comes into the course of many other different crazy beings and whatnot, and his character's name is called Hero. So I'm sure that's where the spoof is coming in. There's probably some meta-textual stuff going on about the hero's journey going through there, so that sounds lovely. Then the other Nick Cage movie that I have is called The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent, which is what we should rename this podcast. That just makes sense to me. But this is another great meta movie. So I'll read the synopsis to you. So it's Nicolas Cage, playing himself, begrudgingly accepts a $1 million offer to attend the birthday of a Mexican billionaire superfan played by Pedro Pascal. And when things take a wild turn, Nick is forced to become a version of his most iconic and beloved characters in order to extricate his wife and daughter from the fan, who is also a notorious drug lord. So Nick Cage playing himself, going nuts. Also Pedro Pascal probably going insane, and then Tiffany Haddish and Neil Patrick Harris are in this movie as well. So I think the combo of these 2 movies from Nick Cage this year it just sounds lovely. I love some insane Nick Cage in my life. That movie is scheduled to come out on March 19th, so we actually have a release date for that one. So it's Nick Cage. He's the best.
How could we not be excited for both those movies?
I feel like because every so often, I mean, we know the story with him now. He has a very lavish lifestyle. He is in 10 movies a year. Most of them are pretty bad. But every so often, he gets connected with a really interesting director who has a really fun idea how to use his personality. And both of these movies kind of sound like that. And I mean, Prisoners of the Ghostlands, that's playing at Sundance. So there's probably something interesting about it at the very least. But both of these just sound hilarious and bizarre. So bring on more bizarre Nick Cage movies.
100%. I'm so hyped for both of those, just for everything he does. But those ones are definitely the high end Nick Cage. But number 3 for me is one that still doesn't have a date. It was originally supposed to come out in summer of 2020, and then got moved to the fall, and now it's just kind of off the table. But it'll probably get a 2021 release. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm really hoping, and that is Wes Anderson's The French Dispatch. Now, this is another one that we spoke about on our lists last year. I don't know if you had it on yours or I had it on mine, but this is another one that's a crossover. And maybe, who knows, maybe we'll have to talk about it on our 2022 list if it doesn't end up getting a date. But I'm excited for this. The trailer, I think, looked really good. And the thing that is very exciting to me is you got all those regulars. I think it's a huge cast, as his movies always are, but this one's even bigger than usual. You got all those regulars, right? You got Tilda Swinton, Adrian Brody. You got Bill Murray in there. Owen Wilson's in there. Edward Norton's in there. Willem Dafoe's in there. But then you got people that are like, I don't usually see them in his films, right? Timothée Chalamet is going to have a big role here. Saoirse Ronan has a role in this film. Jeffrey Wright's popping in here. Elizabeth Moss is in here. Christoph Waltz is in this film as well. So I am definitely looking forward to The French Batch. It definitely looks good. It's got a runtime of about 143, which is kind of on par with a lot of his movies. I remember there was a rumor that it was going to be like 3 hours long and they were going to split it into 2. But I guess that was a complete lie. That was on some website for like 10 minutes, and then it got taken off. But yeah, it's about an hour 40, and I'm just hyped for this. So I hope it gets a date at some point. I think he's probably going to try to target one of the big festivals later in the year to drop this at, like he was trying to in 2020. But French Dispatch, I mean, how can you not be excited?
Yeah, fake news infiltrating the French Dispatch. It's kind of funny.
Hilarious.
Yeah, I think this movie was supposed to premiere at Cannes last year, right?
Yeah.
So I think they're probably aiming for the same thing. Hopefully Cannes happens. That's right in that, or I guess it's Cannes. I'm sorry, I'm probably butchering. A lot of people are mad at my pronunciation of that, my very American pronunciation of it. So we'll see. I think Cannes is very much in that space where not everyone might have vaccines. That's like normally like a May kind of thing. Maybe they push it back a few months or something like that. But I think they're pushing. Maybe they wait for like the New York Film Festival or one of those bigger TIFF, something like that, to release that. It seems like they're very, very adamant in releasing it tied to one of these big festivals instead of just dropping it on like Disney Plus or whatever. So,
yeah, 100%. And who knows? It could drop again this year, or not again, but it could drop there this year, whenever that rolls around in May or June.
Yeah, I don't know. It's kind of starting to turn into New Mutants for me because we've been so focused on it for so long, and then it keeps getting pushed back. So maybe I just want to do it for the memes and just have it never come out. I'm here for it.
A huge, gorgeous cast. It just never gets to get seen.
Yeah, it's just that movie we've always heard about, but no one ever gets to see it. It'd be kind of funny. I'm here for it. My number 2 is Robert Eggers' new movie, The Northman, which is a Viking revenge saga set in Iceland at the turn of the 10th century, which if you just read that to me, I would have just imagined that Robert Eggers was going to direct it. That just sounds like the most Eggery thing I've ever heard. An amazing cast with this one too. Anya Taylor-Joy is in it. Nicole Kidman, Alexander Skarsgård, Ethan Hawke. Willem Dafoe plays a character called Hymir the Fool, which just sounds lovely. And then Bjork, the singer, Bjork plays this character called the Slav Witch, which also just sounds like one of the best things ever. So I'm sure this will be some weird version of drama and horror like the rest, like his previous 2 movies. A lot of crazy accents, since he really loves how, like, you hear all those accents in The Witch and then obviously in The Lighthouse too. So I'm sure this will just be another really stellar movie from him. Just really bizarre, and then film Twitter is going to go nuts with all the meme potential in it.
No, 100%. Like, I think like this movie got talked about right after The Lighthouse dropped. I think like right away this movie was kind of not in production, obviously, but in kind of in development, and we got to hear all the names, we got to hear the ideas, and he's a good director. He's great. and I'm excited for this. It kind of seems perfect for him too.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe is Hymir the Fool. I don't think we can stress that enough. That sounds like one of the best things I've ever heard in my life.
Oh gosh. So my number 2 is actually a power ranking improvement from my 2020 list. If we want to go by that, because I think I had it at like number 6 last year. So now it's up to 2. So we'll see. Maybe next year it'll get up to number 1 if it gets delayed again. But why am I excited for this? Maybe just because I want it to come finally and just kind of go. But that's No Time to Die. This is the last Daniel Craig James Bond film, the 25th installment in the franchise, and it has been bounced around like crazy. But you know, I'm not the biggest James Bond fan out there. I think that a lot of them are, especially the Daniel Craig ones. I think you have 2 really good ones and 2 not so great ones. And then just kind of in history, I'm sort of in the process of watching them now. There's some good ones, some bad ones, but I'm so excited to see this all kind of come to a head there for Daniel Craig and finish up. The trailers look great. I think you have a great cast here. Some really good additions to the franchise here as well. I think Rami Malek coming off his lip sync Best Actor victory is a good addition to this. I think obviously Anya Taylor-Joy is a good addition to this as well. You got Hans Zimmer on the score. I'm excited. I think that the trailers look good. I think in director Cary Fukunaga there, I think he's a good director. He's a good enough director, but I'm not 100% sold. But of course I'm excited for this movie, and I think it's another bit of me just kind of craving seeing something that is meant to be seen on the big screen.
Wasn't there some big story about Fukunaga delaying like the day of shooting because he was playing video games or something like that? Wasn't that a thing that happened?
I heard about that.
So we'll see. But it's Daniel Craig after he said he was going to slit his wrists if he had to play Bond one more time, playing Bond one more time. So I think this could be really fun. It seems like Rami Malek is really going for it. This is his post-Oscar push all the chips in move. So I think he'll be having a lot of fun. This is another one of those where it kind of seems like it's all of the Bond movies put into one, or just to the Daniel Craig ones. So maybe it's a little overstuffed, but I'm kind of like you too, where I feel like I just kind of want to see this on the big screen. And this is another one we've been monitoring all the time about things getting pushed back and all that stuff. So I'm ready for it. I think it'll probably come out in the fall at this point, now that it seems like it'll move from its April release date. But
yeah, and in terms of overstuffed, it's 2 hours 40 minutes. So they're really going for that. Yeah, they're really going for that big, long drawn out runtime ending of not ending of a franchise, but kind of ending of this chapter type movie, right? I think they are really going for that with this. When I heard about that runtime, I just got flashbacks to when they said Endgame was 3 hours. So I think they're probably following in that vein, right? There's a lot to get into this movie. They're going to want to make it big. They probably want to have some good moments with Daniel Craig in there. I hope he does give it his all. I'm sure he got a boatload of money for this movie, so I'm hoping he goes all out for it. But the trailers do look great. They look sleek, as all James Bond movies do. But yeah, if this thing keeps getting pushed, it's gonna be rather annoying. I know, what is it, MGM? I think they said to Netflix, 700 mil, take it or leave it for this movie. And Netflix was like, yeah, you know what, we spend a lot, but that's a little high for us even. So it's keeping its theater release, and I'm excited for that.
Yeah, they couldn't even bring out the Scorsese money for that one. Jeez.
I mean, that's a triple Irishman. That's 700 million.
Yeah, what did they pay for that movie? It was like 200 million, something like that, I feel like. But yeah, that's crazy. That's way too much. I think there was like Apple was in that discussion too, where it was almost going to go there for a second. But MGM is one of those studios where they don't really have much going on besides No Time to Die. So they're kind of stuck where they need to release it because they need money, because they literally have nothing else happening. But they also want to hold it off so they can make as much money as possible, because if it's any good, it'll make close to $1 billion like Skyfall and Spectre did. I think Spectre did that just as good as that. But yeah, who knows? I think I'm sure it'll have its problems. It's 240 minutes or 2 hours 40 minutes, but sometimes all you need is people who look really attractive shooting guns and at really nice European locations. So I think in that level, this movie will succeed quite a bit.
Also, it's just kind of a shame for this movie how close it was to the COVID delays, because the Bond song, the Billie Eilish song was out. It was out already, right? Like
Oh
it was
yeah,
out,
well,
and it was topping the charts, and it was ready. So they were weeks out when coronavirus really made landfall worldwide. So it's just kind of weird how this movie has kind of jumped around, but they're gonna have to re-release that song, I guess.
yeah, and that was the other big thing in this too, where they were really pushing all of the marketing as well. So they had like all of these magazine covers and all these video specials that already ran. So they're gonna have to reboot and do all the marketing stuff over again, which I'm sure will be super expensive for them. So um, I don't really know what they're gonna do with that. I think that's something that they'll probably have to figure out on the fly, and
Mm.
maybe maybe they'll just have to feel good about the release date first and then go nuts with the marketing. But yeah, I feel like it was one of those movies that they pushed it to the fall immediately when the country shut down in March, and all of us were like, "Wow, that was a really smart move." And then I guess no one really expected this to last as long as it did, so they've had to push it two more times since. But yeah, I think I'm just ready for this movie because I feel like Daniel Craig is off to doing different things now, and I feel like it'll be weird. Like this movie would have been filmed like 3 years ago by the time it comes out. So I think everyone involved just kind of wants it to be a thing out in the world.
Yeah,
Should we go to my number one? I guess
that's number one. Yeah,
my
already.
number one. I feel like this is sort of anticlimactic, but my number one does not have a title. It is the untitled Paul Thomas Anderson movie that is scheduled for later this year. Uh, I guess I'm showing my film bro colors here, where PTA is one of my favorite directors. I actually just watched Boogie Nights last night, and it's just, man, I can't wait for another PTA movie. So maybe that's why this is up at the top of my list. But yeah, there's no one quite like PTA. He's one of the best filmmakers working right now, and he has a bunch of leverage to do all these crazy things with his movies that are super sprawling and just amazing acting and all these things. But this is his first movie since Phantom Thread back in 2017. But we really don't know much about this movie up to this point, except that it is expected to come out later this year. The only thing we know is the log line, which is set in the 1970s San Fernando Valley. The film follows a high school student who is also a successful child actor. Besides that, we don't really know much about this. Bradley Cooper is in it. I imagine he is playing a supporting role if this is about a child actor. But we also have Benny Safdie. Come on, we gotta rep the Safdies again,
Yeah.
as is customary on this podcast. Love to see him. And then we have Elena Haim from Haim in this as well. So who knows what this is, but it's PTA, so it's probably going to be really, really good. That's kind of it. I'm really excited to see a PTA movie.
Certainly. I mean, untitled PTA film, that's got to take the cake for best number one on any list for 2021.
I went from these amazing titles like Prisoner of the Ghost Land and what was the other one? The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent to a untitled PTA movie.
I mean, why not, right? It is Paul Thomas Anderson, right? He gets that sort of he gets that pass, right?
Paul Thomas Anderson presents Paul Thomas Anderson.
Yeah, why not? There you go. But yeah, that looks great. I mean, you don't even really need to tell me anything about one of his movies, right? They're all going to be worth the watch. So yeah, that does sound good. Definitely different from my number one. So we're going to jump
It's
in
a little
here.
different. A little different.
Yeah. If I'm not mistaken, this is my number one from 2020, just for fun. And I'm going Godzilla V Kong, going big, going loud.
You're doing you. I love it. You're showing
Yeah,
your
why
true
not?
colors.
I mean, the last one of these films was two guys in a suit punching each other. So I want to see an updated $200 million CGI fest of two computer generated things punching each other instead of two guys in a suit. um, Big King Kong fan, always have been, and then even Godzilla. I've gotten into those a little bit over the last couple of years, but don't think it's going to be great. Definitely want to see it. I don't care. And it finally got settled on a release date too, so that's going to be late March. It's going to get they finally settled too with the HBO slash theaters release. Originally, I think that they were trying to crack a deal. I think they said to HBO Max, they said, and to Warner Bros, they said, give us 150 million and we'll go through with your HBO Max deal. So I guess they're just trying to cover themselves there. But I don't know what happened, but they settled, and late March is when this thing's going to drop with that HBO Max slash theater hybrid. So I'll find a way to watch it. I'd hold out even to wait to see if this thing gets in theaters, if theaters end up opening up here, because that's the only reason I really want to check this thing out. The last Godzilla wasn't great. King of the Monsters was a big mess, but the first two movies in this weird monsterverse I found to be enjoyable enough. I think Kong Skull Island is like an enjoyable kind of fun movie with a good cast. And even the first Godzilla there in 2014, I think that's how you should do a Godzilla movie personally. I like kind of eerie kind of sound design. The shots are very much not revealing. I think that's how you should do a Godzilla movie personally. Even if it did piss off some people who were fans of the older movies. But I'm looking forward to this just because it's the geek in me right now. So it might be awful, and it could very well be, but I do want to see it.
Yeah, why not? I feel like it is kind of anticlimactic if this movie doesn't come out in theaters. That's the whole reason you watch this movie, is to see it on an IMAX screen, right?
Exactly. I mean, that's like, what was it? It was Godzilla V. Sorry, no, the King of the Monsters in 2019 is when I just burst my eardrums in the IMAX theater. Like the different sounds they got for each of the monsters was just insane. Not a great movie at all, but just it felt like I was at a concert, just with how the theater was rumbling and such. But I think I've pitched this idea to you before. I'd like to see one of these movies that's like 90 minutes long, silent film, just beautifully shot, and it's just the monsters going at it. We don't need any actors.
That's what they should do, honestly, because I'm looking at the cast now, and it's, of course, there's like a million people in this movie who are getting a paycheck.
Yeah.
So we have Millie Bobby Brown back in this one, who was in the previous one. Julian Dennison from Deadpool 2, I can't speak. And then Hunt for the Wilder People, Alexander Skarsgård, Kyle Chandler's back, Rebecca Hall, Isaac Gonzalez, Brian Tyree Henry. Just so many actors, and I'm sure that's going to just be versions of we need to restore balance to the world, or let them fight, or something like that. So
yeah, I mean,
I'm with you though. Just give me 90 minutes of CGI things punching each other, then we can go home.
Yeah, just like bring in like this nice score as well, and just just make it look pretty, and just have that happen for 90 minutes. You can have like less than 100 words be said on the screen. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
I mean, yeah. I mean, we have Junkie XL doing the music for this one. So he did Fury Road, and I think he also did Batman v Superman. So I don't know, but yeah, there'll be some epicness in here. I hope that there's at least one or two good fights, because that probably would just make it worth it, even for all like this. I'm sure there's going to be like some weird thing about these characters like dealing with their own like family troubles and stuff, that other things that I will just not care about.
Yeah.
But if there's a good fight
during those scenes.
Yeah, if there's good fights in it, that's kind of all you really want.
Exactly. I mean, I'm sure they'll team up at some point. Just some silly thing like that.
They'll probably do something where they tie in a fight, and then they have to fight an even bigger monster. And then they like bow to each other, then go their separate ways, and then movie's over. Come back for the next one.
yeah, pretty much. But yeah, we'll see how it goes. I threw that on there. Got to remain it at the number one. But yeah, we got some good lists here. A lot of big movies, a lot of small movies, some untitled movies even, some familiar movies, and yeah, I mean, so just kind of wrapping up here. Are you looking forward to 2021? How do you think this year is going to play out?
Well, it can't get any worse, right? We already had an insurrection happen at the Capitol. So I'm feeling okay. It's only up from here.
Yeah, I mean, good point. We'll see the movies about that one day as well. Maybe
Oh God, I'm
2020.
not looking forward to it. Oh no. A
I was thinking,
COVID and capital movie. It's just all of the buzzwords put into one thing.
I was thinking about this the other day. When do you think the Trump movies are going to start coming?
Oh my God, too soon. That's for sure.
Yeah.
There'll be something. Man, I just can't even think about how many movies there's going to be. There's probably already so many dueling scripts that are going around studios right now. So there's going to be the one where it's like the it's like decades over decades, like from his start in the 80s to now, and there'll be the one where it's like just like the night of the Capitol insurrection and all that stuff. So I'm not ready for all this Trump content that's happening soon, but we're gonna get it one way or another.
I saw a great tweet the other day, and it was like, "Who would you like to direct a Trump movie?" And I was reading all the responses because they were a lot of fun. And one person said, "Sofia Coppola is going to make the Ivanka movie," and it's like, and she's going to make her like a redeeming character.
I guess who would be the person to do that? Is it Adam McKay? Probably. I feel like that's too on brand.
Yeah,
That seems too easy.
yeah. I don't know, but I think there'll be a bunch. I hope it's at least 5 years, but I'm sure it'll be sooner.
No, I'm ready for January 2022. Trump. That'll just be the movie. It'll just Trump. That's the title. That's what you gotta do.
Yeah, can't wait for it. But anyway, so
I can wait for it.
that's our 2021 most anticipated films. I just want to thank you again, Nick, for coming on.
I can't wait for movies. Movies are fun. Thank you for having me.
They are indeed, and that's why we do this. Movies are fun. That's why we do it. Yeah, we'll be back pretty soon with some more Babble with Brennan. I think we have a lot of good stuff coming up. We definitely want to cover a lot of Oscar stuff this year because I think a lot of the categories, especially just with how the year's played out, are kind of up in the air.
I'm ready for that, and also Trump Pod coming soon. I'm ready.
Oh goodness! And then we have to do the QB Halloween pod at some point. I don't think Colin's watched it yet, so.
I totally forgot that I didn't keep up that bit. I hate myself for that. I gotta bring it back.
Yeah, Colin's got to get on his game there. But anyway, so you can always check out our content. We got the Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, and check out the rest of our stuff on MovieBabble.com.